Heyo, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all. So we have a bit of an interesting video today, don't we?
Yeah, so we're going to be reaching over toward basic logic, who's going to be discussing Indian culture, what it's about, and how it's affecting our H-1B visas and things like that in the United States, which is our
But
extrapolation.
it's not just that. It also shows you the mindset around this region as well. That's why I said we do this video.
For sure.
Because they all have different words for the same mindset all across, not just India, but you go through all through the African continent, up through Asia. There's this mindset of he explains it way better. You'll see there in a moment. You won't spoil too much of the videos, they would say.
Right. It'll give you some perspective on how non-assimilating type cultures, when they get to your space, affect your space. Here we go.
Yes.
We've all seen the clips, the chaotic streets, open defecation, the Ganges River turned into a floating garbage dump, and a general disregard for public order. These images have sparked intense criticism of Indian culture, especially now, as Indians make up the vast majority of work-related visas. So why is India like that? Academics love to blame colonialism. It's their favorite excuse for why underdeveloped countries are the way they are.
Also, understand with colonialism, it isn't just the 400 or 500 or a few thousand Westerners that show up in a place. They ally themselves with one of the factions in that country, give them technology and support, and with that technology and support, the colonialism can happen. Without local support, colonialism doesn't function. So there is some aspect of local people and culture that assist in the process. So when you say colonialism is a bad thing, what you're saying is half the population utilize technology and the ability of Western countries to functionally subjugate the rest of them. And in return, they get things like roads, railroads, and indoor plumbing. It's a pretty good trade. And when you say that it is evil, there's resources there.
Talking from a person who lives in a foreign colonial country, colonialism is good in some aspects when you're talking about roads and infrastructure and so on. But what happened, say, in the likes of India, Africa, and places like this is they built enough roads to get the resources out of the country, and that was it. Where other countries like Ireland, for example, we had 500 years of colonialism, and plus we're a neighbour of the country that colonized us, the UK. It was a different deal. So I understand where a lot of these academics are getting confused, because they're coming from former colonial countries like ourselves, who are very westernized. These are not westernized countries, and they weren't treated like westernized countries.
Yeah, their culture was wildly different from those who were extracting the resources, right?
And a lot of places treated them like the Dutch up to recently treated it, basically classified the local population as fauna.
Right, yeah, so not the best. There's varying degrees of it, and it's not great, but in a lot of instances, what'll happen is a lot of good technology and roads and things. If the infrastructure is assisted all the way across the culture and the place to ensure that the lives of the people there are improved, that's good. But when there is fraud, waste, and abuse, and
it wasn't fraud, waste, and abuse.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is,
what still happens to this day, by the way, in West Africa and places like that is, especially oil companies, is they'll build roads to get the oil out. That's it. That's as much investment they want to put into that country.
Right. I think the worst one on the planet right now is the Democratic Republic of Congo, because that's the place from which there's a book called Red Cobalt. You guys want to look that one up? It discusses the companies that are in the Democratic Republic of Congo to get the rare earth minerals that's required to build batteries in every electronic piece of thing you own, from a cell phone to a car. Right.
Yes.
So yeah, it's not great. But if you say all of it is on colonialism, that's really
not 50-50. I would say 50-50. India got its independence in the 1950s. So it's had a good 70-year run so far. I would say a lot of countries got their independence from their colonial powers roughly around the same time after World War II. mainly from Britain and France and so on. And have they developed their own infrastructure? No. Not for the most part, yes and no. They've built roads, and I'm saying that in quotations, but they haven't really moved on as a society. They haven't really embraced anything different from where they were before colonialism.
I think a really good perspective on this is roads. So in Ireland, although it was colonial, you guys drive, even though you drive on the wrong side of the road, in an orderly fashion within the lines, right?
Yes.
To make sure that people can safely get from place to place. It is a cultural imperative in Ireland for a certain kind of appropriate action and activity that doesn't harm your neighbor, right?
Yes.
But in
But you'll have
India,
to remember too,
they don't have that at all. You drive wherever the hell you want, and it is a damn adventure to try and get from here to some other place.
but the difference between, say, Ireland, say, and India as a former colonial country is when we got our independence, we were a very we're a very farming-based culture for the most part. Well, we had bad leaders, I would argue, for many decades. But Sean Lemass, in the 1970s onwards, one of our famous leaders, and on really modernized Ireland. You started building universities, made education, third level education free, and so on, with the help of the European Union, by the way. Really modernized our country, and we embraced that modernization.
So De Valera
And it's
didn't do
really
anything
paid
good. De Valera didn't do anything good for that, sir.
De Valera liked keeping, maidens dancing at the crossroads, trying to keep us very much tied to the Catholic Church at the time.
Right.
He was very much in their pocket. And I would say it set us back a good couple of decades. But luckily enough, in the last, say, 1990s onwards, the younger generation who grew up under that thumb decided to modernize our country.
Well, and
bring
there's
more modern
also
technology in.
There's also the aspect of
electrified it.
the aspect of the religion being a like type of religion, a form of Christianity, right? So the
Yes.
value system is roughly the same. So all right,
Roughly the same. We're roughly the same, but
right.
yeah.
So let's get back to the video. Here we go.
But for once, they actually might be pointing in the right direction, though not in the way they think. You see, even before the British, India wasn't independent or united. It was run by the Mughals, and before the Mughals, they were run by the Delhi Sultanate. I am massively oversimplifying, but over the last 1,000 years, India has effectively had no truly united or stable period of self-rule.
Which also made it so that they were more susceptible to this kind of colonialism, which extracted the resources.
Yes.
India is very, very rich in resources, as is the African
Yes.
continent, especially sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah,
So-
and that's why it's easy to kind of divide and conquer, as the old saying goes.
That is the way of it. So with the ease, not easy, but easier than in some other places to colonialize and attempt to extract those resources.
And even before the Delhi Sultanate, self-rule was mixed, often with foreign invaders taking out huge swaths of the land, like the Macedonians, Persians, Scythians, and the Huns. India was rich in resources, but didn't have the means to adequately defend themselves. Their history is one of being routinely conquered, fragmented, and exploited. And it was under such conditions that they developed. This resulted in a unique culture that adapted to survive dealing with powerful foreign and often exploitative bureaucracies.
So again, the colonialism, the trick of I'm going to be nice to one group who's going to then pave the way for me to extract those resources because I give advantage to one group with technology and with modernization, and then you will then do my bidding to ensure that I can extract the resources.
Yes.
Dutch East India Company style, right?
Yeah, it's happened so many times through history. By the way, this is not just unique to India; it's all around the world. A more modern society takes over a less modern society. They extract as much resources out of that other country. That happens all through history. India is not quite unique here.
No, they're not. They're not. So he's going to go into now what characterizations of that culture have made it very, very difficult for them to be good assimilating neighbors when they get to your country with their H-1B or whatever type of visa that is used in your G20 country.
An example of this adaptation is Jugaad, translated as hack or workaround. Effectively, the principle that being able to get around the rules and take advantage of the system is virtuous. This mindset makes sense under foreign exploitative rule, but it turns disastrous if you're the ones responsible for building and maintaining a high-functioning society. A famous parable of Jugaad was when the British Raj attempted to solve a cobra problem in Indian settlements. In short, Indians were being killed en masse by a massive infestation of cobras. So the British created a program. Anyone who killed a cobra and brought the officials their heads would be rewarded. But those who possessed Jugaad saw an opportunity. They began to breed cobras, raise them, and then killed them for a reward. When the British saw how the system was being exploited, they ended the rewards. By the time the program ended, the cobra population had greatly increased, leading to an even bigger cobra problem. In the West, these individuals have been seen with contempt, but in India, they have Jugaad. The societal consequence of Jugaad in situations with self-rule, though, is that you can't have social trust. If taking advantage of the system is virtuous, then honor systems are impossible, because any action that doesn't immediately benefit the one doing it has to be forced.
So when you have to use force, but it's your country and your resources, then you're extracting your own resources against the will of the people in that place. So when folks come into your area, wherever your area is, and they can choose to either work hard or they can choose to hack or exploit the system to extract resources, it takes a more high trust society and turns it into a low trust society, right? On a scale.
Yes.
Obviously, we're not all super high trust all the time. However, when this comes into
by the way,
go ahead.
I was going to say a prime example of this is what's happening in the United States. You see with all these healthcare scams and all these scams. This is the mindset that leads to all these scams.
Right, the hospice scandal.
These people think that way. I'm talking about the Somalian population as well, for the most part in the United States, because I've dealt with them around here as well. These guys will literally find a way to milk every penny they can out of your system. This is their mindset.
Right, with the childcare credits and all those things that Ireland was paying for. It ends up with places like LA County, which has 3% of the population of my country, having 10% of the hospice. And then when the fraud division at the federal level shuts down hundreds of these hospice centers, companies, corporations, NGOs, whatever, nobody calls them to say, hey, we have people in palliative care that we need the money. Nobody calls because it was a scam. And it was so obviously a scam that a 22-year-old reporter with a microphone, a camera, and one security guard can walk around and go, hey, you're doing bad things. Why are you doing bad things? And they don't want to scream at Nick Shirley for being like, hey, I'm going to shine some light in this dirty cockroach-ridden corner. And then the cockroaches are unhappy. There's a light on them.
I'm not just talking about Nick Shirley, which, by the way, he did some fantastic work around that story, by the way. One thing I will point out is we did a video there recently of, remember that young lady that rented out her flat to, by the way, to Indians. Let's be clear. She didn't openly say it, but we all knew who she was on about. And you saw what they've done to her, what they did. She trusted them, but they just took complete advantage of the whole situation.
Yeah, they lived there for a few years and completely destroyed the flat. Never called her to say that there was an issue with repairs or maintenance problems. And then they put feces all over the walls and ripped out tile and took things down and replaced things.
They just didn't care because it's somebody else's problem, not their problem. They don't care.
Right. Well, they had the Jugaad. They had the Jugaad. They were maxing.
And you have a lot of these guys going over to the United States on these visas with apparent degrees. And I'm saying apparent, don't get me wrong, I've met very smart Indian individuals from India and Pakistan and so on, who are really highly qualified and really good at their jobs. But there's a few of them that I've met, I was kind of going, you know very little about the job you're supposed to be qualified in. I met one IT guy, and I'd be honest with you, there's not a hope his qualification is real. I'll put it that way to you. There's not a hope in the world.
So I know a fella, I'm just going to call him Jason. And Jason is from one of these countries. He's, believe he is from either Afghanistan or Northwest India. And he is a rug merchant. And he happens to owe some people I know a lot of money, and he's never going to pay them. Although
No.
legally he is required to do so, he's just not going to do it. And because he got his citizenship in a very strange way, like he's almost untouchable. It's like he literally hacked the system so well that he is not legally responsible for things he did before he was an American citizen, because he couldn't have gotten into the contract in the first place. Like, it just looks like he maxed out the hack, right?
Yes.
So
a good rule of thumb is, a guy I know very well worked all around this region of the world for oil companies, and he'll tell you straight out, if they're from North Africa or any of these regions, do not do business with them whatsoever. Just stay miles away. Do not rent out to them. Do not do any business of any kind with these guys, because they will find a way to rob you or just extract resources from you. They will screw you over. That's just who and what they are.
Functionally, that's how that's looking. And it's not really, with the mass immigration issues, it's not helping us at all.
No.
Like that, the weird thing you were telling me about the other day with Quetta, where the adults, they have functionally removed from there, but the minors, they're just sending them up into Spain. Because
but I told you that.
Right.
I remember when we did that video, I told you straight out that these kids will not tell you who their parents are. Or if they do, they'll just lie.
Right. My parents are dead. Yeah. How many of those kids that they interviewed said, no, my parents are dead. I don't have parents.
Yeah,
right?
every single one of them, all their parents were dead, apparently. Thousands of kids, all the parents died. Just mother, father, the whole lot, grandparents, they're all dead. Everyone died. Everyone belonged to them died.
So the kids can come in unaccompanied from Morocco into Spanish territory, but then the Spanish government can't allow the children to go back because they can't send back unaccompanied minors.
And a lot of Western countries are falling into that trap.
Yep.
Like, not being smart. Most of these countries, like Morocco, I'm going to use Morocco for example, have orphanages. They have places for kids who don't have parents. They're not that bad off.
Right. They can just say, I don't have parents once they get there. And on the West side, we're like, okay, well, I guess they don't have parents. We have to do something to.
Yeah, the problem is we have to seriously start looking at our laws. Like, I understand people's heartstrings are always being pulled when it comes to kids. But a lot of these teenagers are saying they're 15, 16. Some of these teenagers are kind of going, you're more than 15 or 16. If you know, it was just, you know the way teenagers carry themselves and you know the way adults carry themselves. A lot of these kids didn't come off as kids.
Minor. Yeah, not as minors at all. Right, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Which is inefficient. Which brings me to the next adaptation, Izzat, which the West translates as honor, but in reality functions more like prestige or social power. Izzat, at its most basic, is how others see you, specifically how important you are. And the biggest marker of importance is that no one can make you do anything. Meanwhile, you were able to make others do them. In the West, we are honor-bound to keep our streets clean and not litter. But in India, that's a weakness. That's having low Izzat.
Right. If someone can't tell you what to do, then you have power. So you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But then when it comes to maintenance of your cities, counties, provinces, states, whatever, you won't be driven to do anything. Even if you get a job where it is your job to do the thing, you'll then go back to Jugaad and say, well, no, you really can't. No, I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do.
They'll find a way around. Yeah, they'll find a way around it.
You're going to pay me, and I'm not going to do the thing because I got the job. Now you can't fire me, so I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want, because nobody in a supervisory position is going to say, hey, you better do the thing, because they're also ducking the work, right?
Yes. And you see it so often if you travel to any of these countries that you see guys literally, I would say, using the outdoor toilet in front of officers, and officers stand there just walk straight past them while they're doing their business on the streets,
right?
And saying that's not our job.
So here's the most important one on that list, right? Because we all know that scamming people is wrong. We all know we need to take showers. We all know the roads need to be clean, but there is nobody forcing you to put the buggy or the stroller or the cart back at the shopping market. There's nobody forcing you to do that, but we all know the right decision is bring the damn cart back so the next person has easy access to it because you're done using it. When you're done
Yes.
using the thing, put it back in a readily usable fashion. If it's broken, go in and go, hey there, shopkeep, your cart's broken. Well, that way the
Yes.
shopkeep can go ahead and get that thing fixed. And then all of the carts are working and functional and in the right place to be most effectively used. That's just orderly. When you don't do that and they're all over the parking lot and people are running into them, it becomes an issue. And then they have to
Yes.
send people out to go grab those things. So then they're losing labor because people are just being a-holes.
Yes, but the problem, I think, comes down to a deeper societal issue. Is a lot of these people, how can I put it in it? I'm trying to find a very nice way of saying low IQ.
Numpty?
But yeah, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed for the most part. Let's be straight out and honest. A lot of them wouldn't have a great shake at life to begin with, and now they just don't care. They don't see. They're not smart enough to see the consequences of their actions on the wider society, or themselves even in general.
Well, it's super self-serving. It's just super self-serving, and functionally it's super lazy.
Because you're being forced to do something that doesn't directly benefit you, and no one even has to pressure you into it. You just do it yourself because of how little Izzat you have. This is why they don't have orderly lines in India. Standing patiently in line is low Izzat behavior.
So the function of society is how well do you wait in a line? Do you queue up appropriately? Because
Yes.
if I'm a big fella and I've got super sharp elbows and I can just, elbow punch my way to the front of the line and be treated first, and not running over the nice lady with the 2 kids who is also pleasantly waiting for whatever service or good we're both waiting for. If you can patiently wait in a line, then you have culture. If you cannot patiently wait in a line, then, well, first of all, you suck. Secondly, you should reevaluate. But the thing is, a person who does that does not have the capacity to evaluate on a broader scale what their actions do to violate cultural norms. They just don't.
No. And now this is the type of culture that we're all importing at the moment into our countries. Now, as I keep going back to, is they're not going to assimilate. They're not. They've had generational conditioning into this way of thinking. So they're not going to suddenly land, say, in America, or suddenly land in Ireland, or land in any G20 country, and suddenly a switch is going to flip in their heads, and they're suddenly going to clean up their act. They're going to start doing everything that society wants. They're not. It's not going to happen.
I was talking to our buddy, actually, Doc Guinness, a few weeks ago. He actually popped his head back up, and he was telling me he went to the post somewhere around Dublin, and he was waiting in line to send a package, and it was Monday or Tuesday, the day when, people go to the post to get the check. And he said there was a group of folks in there that literally, while he's waiting in line, they forced their way to the front to talk to the nice lady who worked there, Moira or Freya or whatever her name was.
Oh, yeah.
And they just literally just pushed through everybody. The person who was in the front of the line and was talking to the lady, they literally stood in front, like didn't physically remove them, but got close enough to them where the person who was talking had to back up, or they would have had their personal space violated in such a way where Western societies are like, hey, don't get that close to me. Right. And you can see from like this picture here in India, they don't have that personal space thing like a lot of Western cultures do. Right.
No,
so
they want to get on the train. That's their idea. I get on the train, screw everyone else. I'm getting on this train.
Right, but this happened at the post in Dublin. I think it was actually District 8 where your buddy Dara is, Mr. Moriarty. We did something with that guy too. But they got close enough to the person that person had to literally back up, and then they decided to bring their issue directly to the lady who works at the post there. And and he said
I can guarantee I know what their issue was, because I've seen this play out my local post office one day. Their issue, what happens is they go in. One of them will go in with their PPS card.
Okay.
They'll go up. They'll actually queue up, because I've seen this play out. The lady will scan their card and say, "Look, there's no payment here for you." So they'll go out, and next one you'll have a big gang of them coming in, all shaking their cards, looking for their money. Obviously, it's not. By the way, the post office is not the one who puts through your payment. It's the Department of Social Protection. for the most part. So that's why they should be given out, but they don't. They just give out to the first person they see who they think is an authority. That suddenly the lady who's working the post office can suddenly clear a social welfare payment.
Right.
You know,
she's there to make the payment if it's there. She's there to process
yes,
letters
but they don't
and
see it that way.
parcels and stuff. Right.
That's what I'm saying. Most of them are as dumb as a bag of rocks.
I don't know. But again, it's a hack. They're just trying to do a hack. If I can force somehow,
they're trying to do a hack, but they're not smart enough to realize that this hack is not working because that lady cannot give you money that is not there.
Right. But if they continue to cause confrontations in places like that, then other people just won't go there. They just won't.
What happened in this case, because we're getting more irate, one says, I'll just ring the guards. She wasn't having any messing around. I'll just ring the guardie.
Right. I think that Duncan has told me that the Garde Chicana showed up and they had to get escorted out because they literally would not get out from the front of the line. They're like, we want a thing. Here's my PPS card. Like, you have to do the thing. And the Garde had to come and say, hey, come on, fellas. Yeah, come on, get on out of here. Yeah. You're done. So, all right, we'll finish this thing up.
When you can just push your way through. Jugaad and Izzat worked as survival strategies against foreign occupiers. But now that India is sovereign, these same patterns are holding back the development of high-trust institutions. The bigger question for the West is, do we really want to import this cultural game by mass immigration? I think not, lest we risk the West turning out like India. Deeply rooted cultural adaptations don't change in a generation or two. India needs time to develop new norms suited to self-rule. Only then could we revisit immigration policy based on results. We've all seen the clips.
So I wanted to bring it back so we could see that picture on the way out. So yeah, it's not great when we have mass immigration of those who are going to fail to assimilate, and then those with pointy elbows pushing to the front of the line. That train thing you saw in Mumbai, Bobby, it's not great. And when a lot of that gets into your space, then it pushes out those who by rights should be getting those assets and things. It's not great.
To be honest, let's call it, for the most part, most of them are just a shower of scroungers, to be honest. Let's call them what they are. They're just going to go into your country and they're just going to rob you blind. That's their culture. That's it. And they're not going to assimilate. There's not going to be some magic, as I keep saying, a magic switch that's going to make these guys civilized. It's not going to happen.
Well, with Jugaad and Izzat, I don't think it's going to happen effectively or in a way that anybody's going to find appealing. All right, anything else for the good of the people, Patrick?
No, I think we did a pretty good job on that one.
It didn't go too bad. All right, for Patrick McCallum, I'm Alex Johansson. Like, ring the bell, subscribe, and help us beat the algorithm. We're the A&P Gents, and we are out.